What if the Draymans asked for our help?
Yes. Sarjenka's transmission could be viewed as a call for help.
Sophistry.
I'll buy that excuse. We're all jigging madly on the head of a pin anyway.
She cannot ask for help from someone she does not know.
She knows me.
What a perfectly vicious little circle.
Increase to full power!
Gives me the creeps. I feel like something's watching us.
Mr. Savick, you go right on quoting regulations.
Hello, computer.
I knew I would.
You betrayed your uniform!
Target their cargo hold. Time to take out the garbage.
Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data?
I beg your pardon, sir. He aspires to be better than I am. Come on, it's gonna be fun.
5 years in space. God help me.
This is the best day of my life!
A phaser? You didn't use it?
Swords are fun.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Welcome back to another Retrek review, where each week we talk about Star Trek, and this week we're talking about episode 15 of season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation, and that episode is entitled Pen Pals.
Pen Pals.
It originally aired May 1st, 1989. It was a teleplay by Melinda M. Snodgrass, who had previously written The Measure of a Man, the story by Hannah Louise Shearer, who was a writer on When the Bow Breaks. She was uncredited for a rewrite of Coming of Age. She did the teleplay of Skin of Evil, and she was a writer on We'll Always Have Paris.
Nice.
It was directed by Winrich Colby. Winrich Colby previously directed Where Silence Has Lease. The synopsis for Pen Pals is Data makes contact with a young girl from a pre-warp civilization on a planet facing imminent annihilation. The Enterprise must wrestle with the moral dilemma of violating the Prime Directive or stand by while Data's friend dies.
Yeah.
We had additional guest cast this week. We had Nicholas Cascone as Davies, a character actor who has been in a few things. Nikki Cox as Sarjenka. She's been in quite a handful of things. But her last credit was in 2009, where she voiced Silver Sable in 2 episodes of The Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. Then we had Anne H. Gillespie, who played Hildebrand. Again, she's another character actor who's probably most recognizable for playing Jackie Taylor in 26 episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. It's the mother to Kelly Taylor. Then we have Colin Meaney as Miles O'Brien.
Yep.
And then Whitney Ryback as Allens. He just passed away last July. And he was a character actor who had been in things like Oliver and Company, a Very Brady sequel, things like that. So, Rocky
Nice.
2, character
Rocky
parts.
2.
That was the older man who spoke up at the table. So that was the introduction of the episode, but before we move on to supporters of the podcast, let's go over to Caleb and ask Caleb what he thought of the episode.
I enjoyed this episode quite a bit.
Okay.
I think it's finally like an episode of Next Gen where it makes you question a lot of stuff. And I feel like they really dig into like what Star Trek is about. Like, should we get involved or should we not?
Mm-hmm.
It was more like realistic.
Yes.
Like it was like an actual issue that they had to like figure out what to do. And Picard had to make like choices as a captain that like nobody really wants to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it a 2, a CUDA.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think in general it's a pretty strong episode. Like you said, I think like exactly what you're saying is that it hits all the right chords that normally is missing from a lot of early season Star Trek episodes. Like
Yeah.
this is kind of how Star Trek is in general. Like as time goes on, it's like they have these, not every episode has like a moral quandary, but
No.
they definitely deal and make like very compelling stories. So,
I'll tell you what, the original series, like as far as like thinking it was gonna be like cheesy, which it is, but a lot of the episodes of the original series are this type of material where it's like,
yeah.
hey, like we don't need to be doing that or getting involved in that. It's like, yeah, but so we're just gonna let these people die.
Right.
I
Right.
feel like there's a lot more of that in TOS, and I guess that's what I care about in Star Trek. I guess I've come to realize is that I enjoy that moral dilemma and how
Yeah.
each captain like deals with it.
Yeah, it's much more compelling to watch and follow than just like some random person is like they're having dinner with and
Yeah.
he doesn't want to sign the treaty.
hmm Yeah, they're bringing this diplomat to this planet, and on the way, it's I don't like that.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that gets old to me.
It does. I do think we're gonna do this interesting thing where we go kind of high and then we're gonna kind of like dip.
Yeah,
But
it's good.
you may not feel that way because you enjoyed the Icarus Factor, which I think is a very average episode for people. But as you can see, the stories are getting much more interesting, much more well written. We're getting a lot
Yeah.
more backstory to the characters, so we're gonna get pretty soon here. We're gonna get right into season 3, and it'll find its footing, and we'll actually have like a fun TV show to watch. We'll like the reverse will start to happen where it'll be like, wow, that's a good episode. Wow, that's a good episode, and then it'll be a bad episode instead of it being
Yeah.
consistently kind of not great, and then like, oh wow, a good episode.
I feel like it definitely kind of hit its stride here in season 2,
hmm
and I'm prepared for a bad episode any time now.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. So that was what Caleb thought of the episode. But before we get into the review, let's first, right off the bat, and then come over here for this one. We thank Ed, Mark Starr, and Captain Ali Mar for their Patreon support. We appreciate them helping keep our show afloat. But we specifically like Ed Mark Starr for giving us good advice and being a good friend, always by our side. And for Captain Alimar for allowing us to talk to people when we probably really shouldn't and making all of the hard decisions.
True.
And as a privilege of being a Patreon member, they both get their comments read during the podcast. So we have a couple from both of them. First, we have Captain Elimar talking about the Royale, our review of the Royale.
Ooh, the best episode of the season.
So he says, looks like the poor devil died in his sleep. And then Worf says, what a terrible way to die.
Yeah.
What a week, guys. Glad Caleb found more joy this week than I did. 2 Kazintis.
Wow. Everybody hates the Royale.
They hate it.
Wow.
I think I've just seen this episode too many times, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the Astro jerk who got 2001 A Space Odyssey did eventually figure out how to escape the hotel, but had no spaceship and nowhere to go, so he stayed in the hotel.
Yeah. It's
Honestly,
pretty
yeah.
bad.
Pretty bad. He says, honestly, I never questioned it before you guys brought it up. The solution is fun enough, I guess, with them figuring out to run out the plot. This episode is a bit boring to me. Figuring out the mystery is kind of alright, but them hanging out with every stereotypical character who isn't even real, quote unquote. So it's hard to care about what happens to anyone besides the crew.
True.
Thanks as always for the review. What a fun time it is every week. We appreciate that, Captain Olimar. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. But then he gives us a PS.
Hmm.
And he says, y'all should just watch that stupid TOS episode with the gangsters and get it over with. It comes up like every week. And with that, I leave you with a quote from my brother when asked about what he remembered about this episode. And he said, I don't remember much of it. And for that, I am grateful.
Wow. That's good.
So, not to make him, feel bad or anything, but Ed Mark Star has the tier to request Star Trek episodes. So if you want to kill Benai to watch it, we got to pressure Ed Mark Star to get that going.
Yep.
Put the pins on him.
I may have already watched it on my own. You'll never know.
You'll never know.
You'll never know.
So we call out to Ed Mark Star. If you want us to watch that episode, Ed, let us know on Patreon.
It's more like the spirit bomb. We have to put our hands up
and collect all the
gather all of Ed Mark Star's energy to request it.
Well, speaking of Ed Mark Star, he left a comment on our previous review of Times Squared. He said, a general observation. The comm badge only functions like a walkie-talkie. Audio only with no ability to transmit video. I find it odd when the away team has to verbally describe their situation on a mission, but to be on board the Enterprise and not have the ability to send video to the bridge of the situation in the shuttle bay seems very 1940s to me. And I agree. We were specifically watching a different episode, and I was thinking, they have to describe these things to Picard, and I was literally remembering your comment and thinking, yeah, like if this was just like they would have body cams kind of a thing. So
yeah,
it's
weird. It's weird.
It's a thing where their hands were tied due to the technology they had in the 80s.
Well, yeah, that's true, and it's also just it falls flat now in our timeline because it's like.
Yeah.
Every time they do one of these episodes, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. And they're like, well, we don't use televisions in the future.
Yeah. But you have a monitor every 12 feet.
But yeah. But you don't have a window on the bridge. So that's a screen.
Right.
So
True.
Why, though? Explain it. So the comm just being comms is fine, but it's I don't know. Remember the episode where Geordi ties into the screen?
Exactly. And he was revolutionary, right?
And they're like, wow, we can see what you see. And it's like, yeah, why don't you have that?
It's true. Just have Data do it. Beam Data over and then just tie into his eyes.
Yeah. There's no way in a society of exploration that you wouldn't have video and audio.
No. So he says Times Squared gets a thumbs down from me.
Ooh.
The episode feels like reverse engineering. Here's the setup. Captain Picard meets his time travel twin, but has to kill his twin to save the Enterprise. So how do you construct an episode to contain both details? In my opinion, the writers fabricated a poorly rendered mystery, finding an excuse to kill the time travel twin. Seeing Picard killed is like a jump scare. It's a crutch used to prop up a weak mystery. Instead, I would throw out the entire time travel twin and just spend time coping with the vortex. There's nothing wrong in showing the crew of the Enterprise encountering an astronomical phenomenon, analyzing such, and using teamwork to save the ship and all hands on board. Too many Star Trek episodes are burdened with overly dramatic details like a Christmas tree with too many ornaments.
Huh.
Try telling a simple story that highlights the skills of the crew when tackling a situation and bring the audience along as the crew forms a resolution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he makes excellent points. Like the
Yeah, he
show,
does.
yeah, he always, yeah, his comments are always very eloquent. So
Yeah.
I enjoy that. Not that anybody else's isn't. I just he's very specific about what he says. So
Yeah, I mean, so our job is to just watch the episode and be like, "Hey, that was kind of fun."
right,
But Ed's comments are always like, when you really break down the society at the time and
right.
and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's true." Yeah, this is a stupid episode.
We all change
Yeah.
our minds
Yeah.
collectively after Ed marks our comments.
Yeah, he does have a very good way of explaining like his point of view and why
Yes.
it's like that. And yeah, it is true. It is a very Star Trek does get very lazy, especially with the endings where it's like, "Hey, so
Yeah.
Picard from 6 hours is awake now," and he immediately is like, not like, "Hey, this is really strange. Why am I on the Enterprise? Why is there another Picard?" He's just like single-minded.
Yeah.
And it's like
For
such
for
an
no reason.
easy scapegoat to just be like, no time to talk, no question. We can't answer questions because we don't have the answers, and he needs to get off the ship, and then Picard's gonna shoot him.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
And then we'll fly deeper into the vortex, which will work.
yeah, because the original Picard never would have thought about just flying the ship into the
Yeah.
vortex.
Yeah, because you know what? 6 hours and seeing your duplicate totally would change all of your decisions.
Yep,
I think
yep,
it would have been more compelling if he was like deciding whether or not to let that Picard go. And then Data from the bridge was like, Captain, there's a shuttle on screen, and then they'd like another Picard was out there because of like another decision. And it was just like, uh-oh.
yeah. I mean, here's how you fix the scene the way it is. You have Picard have one throwaway line where he says, Geordi and Data theorized we could escape
Hmm.
through by going further in, but I chose to leave the ship to give them time to figure it out.
Yes.
Right? And
Yep.
now our Picard says, "Oh, well, I would never leave the ship." So now he decides to fly in deeper, and that's what worked. And then the other Picard like disappears
Right.
because of the timeline.
I think
Like that would
that,
have fixed it. That would have fixed it for me. That would have been like, "Oh, okay."
yeah. I think that or the idea that the entity thing in the vortex was like attacking Picard, and it tells him that if he leaves the ship, like it'll leave the Enterprise alone.
Yeah.
And then when he did, it didn't. It destroyed the Enterprise, and then it was like, an evil entity, and then he was floating. The time space continuum affected him, and he got
Yeah.
propelled out of it, and now he's 6 hours ahead. They find him, and then when they get there, he tells them that like I was supposed to leave,
Yeah.
but it still ended up killing the Enterprise. And then they have, like you're saying, then Geordi and Data are like, well, we think if we just fly into the thing, we'll break free of it, and you don't have to leave. And then duplicate Picard disappears once they go through the vortex, and that's it.
Yep. I think that would have been better all around.
Yeah. Yeah. So great comment as always. And then lastly, we have another comment from Captain Olimar on the same episode, Time Squared. He says, delicious. This episode in one word is sloppy. One gazinti.
Sloppy.
I think the only scenes I really enjoyed was Riker making breakfast and Picard shooting himself to save the Enterprise. This
Yep.
episode started all right with Riker making slop only a Klingon could eat, and then two Picards. How crazy. Picard acts so weird towards his double, and the opposite world rules aren't explained too well in the episode.
Nope.
That's most of the things in this episode. Poorly thought out and not explained. Why make quote unquote omelets when you can replicate them? Does the replicator have limited recipes? Can
Yep.
it make a hot fudge sundae but without the cherry on top? Or is it cherry or leave it?
Yep.
To be fair to the writers, people still play instruments on board the Enterprise, even though the computer has music recording, I suppose. So,
No, that doesn't make any sense.
who would do that?
Mm-mm. Nope. You're thinking of some pointy-eared guy from a different show that we don't talk about anymore.
He says Caleb might protest, but this episode would have been much improved by about 35 seconds of Q showing up, messing with Picard, clowning on Worf, and explaining that he did it to test Picard's metal.
Yeah, I actually agree. It would have made a lot more sense.
He doesn't want to agree, but he does.
I don't. I reluctantly agree.
He's under duress.
It would have made more sense than the lackluster quick ending
Yeah.
we had, you know?
Yeah.
Like if Picard decided to shoot himself and then fly through the portal, and then he went back on the bridge, and Q was like, "Oh, I see you've learned," and then he just
Yeah.
left. You'd be like, "Oh man,
That's crazy.
that was nuts."
Yeah. So he says season 2 sucks a bit. It's not as bad as season 1, but it's still not great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the review as always, guys. So
Thing is, too, is I review stuff like right after we watch it,
yeah.
and then like already now that we're talking about this episode, like 3 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, not a very good episode.
Well, that's why we do that look back of the season and we talk about it. We have comments. Yeah, it's like you have your hot takes, you do your like immediate feeling things, and then that's where we sit. That's where we sit.
In the meantime, you just make everybody mad at me because I don't have the foresight of knowing anything.
That's right.
So that's fun.
Yeah, that's how we like it, and they like it too.
They do.
And if you have some thoughts about the episode, either one of those episodes, make sure to leave a comment because your comment can get read on our other series, Hailing Frequencies Open. And over there, we discuss what the rest of the gang has been saying who aren't Patreon supporters. So just wait a day and you can hear what we have to say. And then before we get into the review, we had another subscriber to the channel, and that subscriber is Green Boots.
Nice.
So we appreciate you subscribing, Green Boots.
Thank you
for subscribing, Warrior.
Looks like your icon is a Chuckaboo or something from Final Fantasy. So
nice.
So we appreciate that. So we appreciate everybody commenting. We know that there's a lot out there. Caleb and I are continuously filming ahead of time, so some of our responses to things are going to be staggered a little bit. That's okay. Soon we'll catch up. Caleb and I are just trying to get ahead of things, but also get that content out the door for you guys. So
yeah, we're kind of like Picard right now.
Yeah, we're six days.
We're like 6 days ahead.
Yeah, it's very true.
And when I wake up to record the retrek, I feel just like Picard on the med bay table.
You come into your office and there's another you sitting in the chair, and then you say, "The cycle must end."
No, I just say, "Oh, thank God," and then I go back to bed.
Well, without any further ado, let's get straight into the review. So I think when the episode opens, they're talking about how the system that they're flying in is like exploding and ripping apart, and all these planets have like short-lived existences because of some sort of crazy thing happening. And he says that you gotta live fast and die hard. I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
But I thought it was really interesting that we get to see that Picard likes to ride horses.
It was cool. I enjoyed that.
I specifically was thinking of you when Picard goes up and he's talking to Deanna and he's punching stuff into the holodeck and then talking to the computer. And he's giving all the descriptions and all the stuff that he wants. And
Yeah.
the doors open and you can see like this like field with the horse, and you're like, okay, whatever, that's cool. But then when they do the reverse of it and they're like walking in the pasture and like the door to the Enterprise is just like out in the field, and then the door's closed and the arch or the doorway like fades away. I was like, that would be a really fun like diorama to have of just like
Yeah.
this really cool thing, and then just having like the holodeck door or the arch like over in the corner kind of a thing.
You know why it's cool? Because it could be anything.
Right, exactly.
It could be like anything that you like and you enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
You could do like a full diorama build of like the Shire from Lord of the
Oh,
Rings
yeah.
and then have like the door right here and be able to see like inside the door, like the hallway.
Yeah.
And it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. It would be
But
pretty cool.
I don't have that kind of time, you know?
Nope, not at all.
Nope. If only I had some sort of replicating device.
Thought it was really interesting and kind of like something I don't think that they tackle in the series later at all. But Picard is kind of surprised that Betazoids aren't great animal trainers, and then Deanna lets him know that like no, animals like overwhelm Betazoids because of their like flitting through passions and thoughts and stuff. And I was
Yeah,
just thinking that like that's a really interesting thing to write to Betazoids, that like they kind of like purposely stay away from animals. And I was like, that's an interesting thing to write to a species.
she had a Betazoid cat
Yeah, right.
and her mom killed it.
Oh,
You know what? I don't like this line. Let me explain to you my thought
please,
process on it.
please do it.
Because as she said it, I was like you. I was like, hey, that's kind of interesting. And then I was like, no, actually, that's really kind of stupid. She's on a ship
Mhm.
with, you know, whatever,
Like 800.
30 different species
Okay.
and human beings, which are known for being, impulsive eh, thoughts or,
Hmm.
but then there's other species on board too. And you have all
Yeah.
that combined, but that's fine.
Yeah,
That
that's
doesn't,
not.
that doesn't bother her. But an
No.
animal that has like three emotions that
Yeah.
happen maybe simultaneously sometimes can't handle it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was stupid, if I'm being honest. I was like, that's kind of a cop out.
I agree with you. I don't disagree. I just don't know how hard,
Yeah.
like, I don't know how far the writers intended for that to go. Like, were they trying to say exactly what you're saying, where it's like it doesn't make any sense and that's a huge cop out? Or were they just
Yeah.
trying to make it specific to like animal training? And she just is like, no, we don't really ride horses and like do animal training because of the emotional complex things. And it's like, that's fine. But if you're saying that the mere animals, which is what kind of comes across, that mere animals are so
Yeah.
disruptive to her like thinking patterns or her empath ways, then it's like that doesn't make any sense.
And
Because
also, like, can't she just like deaden some of those impulse, like her empathic stuff too?
you would think so. The thing that they sometimes forget to like they do when they don't like write for Deanna is like she's half Betazoid. So she
Oh
can't
yeah.
actually like read minds, and she can't actually like do a lot of stuff. She can only have like impressions of other people. So it's like she can only, that's
Yeah.
why she's always like, oh, he feels angry or he feels happy or he feels like he's hiding
Uh,
something. she can't actually read his mind. Her mom is full Betazoid, so when she comes on the ship, that's when she's like, she talks to her in her head, kind of a thing,
Wow,
and all
you're
that
right.
stuff.
I
She's
totally forget that's even a thing.
right. But it's a thing where it's like she's speaking for all Betazoids, though. So she's saying that, like, that's a full Betazoid, like reading
Yeah.
all the thoughts of all things would maybe overwhelming, but I don't know. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just thought it's an interesting thing to specifically write to them, but then it also adds a layer of head scratching because you're like, well, how does their like what does their society look like when you introduce something like that?
No animals.
Right, because I mean, like animals are a huge part of human
Yeah.
society, so
And she's even like blown away by the idea and concept that like, oh, it's not like a friend,
oh
it's like
yes,
a companion. It's like a, that kind of a like that whole idea to her is alien, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, so like
I
the
don't
whole
think he even
concept is a
answers her on
mystery.
that, does he? I don't think he says
No.
anything.
No.
I did think that the interruption bit was good when Picard gets
Oh,
onto and he's just like, okay.
that gave me anxiety because I know that. I know that feeling.
Yeah, he totally didn't have that the other night.
Like, all right, let me just get on this horse so I can relax.
The house is
Hey,
on fire.
Captain, you know that system that we were going to? Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah,
only
we're
thing
here.
I didn't write it down, but I it pops back into my brain, so it must be something that I didn't enjoy as much as I thought. I kind of disliked, and I don't know why, I just kind of disliked that Picard came to the bridge in his uniform.
Yeah,
It
like it's
it
an
like
emergency, but I gotta go spend the 10 minutes to change.
yeah, it just like it lessened the urgency of Riker calling him to the bridge.
Yeah.
And I get it. They probably, they're on location filming in a pasture with Patrick Stewart and Marina Sirtis with a horse. And then
Yeah.
him coming onto the bridge was a completely different filming day. And,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
and they're on the set back in wherever. So it's like, I get it. But at the same time, like the continuity of him coming to the bridge in the same garb would have made way more sense. And also Ben made it feel like everything stayed connected. Because
Yeah, I thought so too.
then we come back from the musical thing. It's like, so what if Picard's in his uniform now? It's like we've had time pass, you know.
Well, then they put him right back in the holodeck. So it's like,
Oh, that's
you know,
true. They did do that, didn't they?
so
No, no,
just keep
no,
him.
no. They put him.
Yeah, because
They're in the observation lounge when they come back.
right, but then what I mean is that Data goes into the
Oh,
holodeck to get him again. So it's like you just keep him in his uniform because that's where he's going back after he answers these three questions that they had,
very, very true, very true.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought the same thing in this scene. I was like, I would have liked to see him like in his holodeck stuff.
yeah.
I don't know. They make it seem like there's a room next to the holodeck that has all your outfits and costumes in it.
Well, Worf comes out the turbo lift dressed as like the weird butler guy or whatever that
Yeah.
was. But
Yeah, he does.
we come back from the musical intro. I thought Riker wanting to train Wesley was kind of an interesting thing where they're trying to make him more of an actual officer.
This episode is
Hmm.
the first time Wesley has felt like a grounded character.
Like he felt like it made sense why he was at the front of the bridge, like controlling things and
It
like
made
why they
sense.
appointed a child.
Yeah, I mean it made sense like him being a part of the ship for one, and then him being actually like trained by the crew.
Yes.
It was
100%
I was
agree.
like, oh, okay.
This was like something they needed to do like an episode or two after appointing him.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's felt like he's just kind of had like free range. He's not even an ensign, you know?
Yeah.
And this was the first time like Riker kind of is like teaching him how to be like a member of Starfleet.
Yeah, 100%.
I was like, oh, okay. Like I liked it. Like I like all the Wesley stuff.
Yeah, it really wasn't bad.
So if you actually write to it that you're training this kid, it's like, well, hey, isn't that interesting how that's so much better and
Yeah.
makes you like him?
And that's the interesting thing that I really think is like I think it's proof that Hannah Louise Shearer and Melinda Snodgrass like they understand the characters better than the previous writers and
Yeah.
actually understand dialogue and back and forth between each other. Like when the bow breaks, the one where they steal the kids, coming of age, where Wesley has to go through the training program, Skin of Evil, where Tasha dies, and we'll always have Paris, where Picard is lamenting over the girlfriend he left.
Yeah.
Like, there's parts in those episodes that are not really impressive and not really great, but
Yeah.
but I think arguably they don't necessarily they know how to write people, and then you think back to The Measure of a Man, which is another Melinda Snodgrass thing. Like, she knows how people talk to each other.
Yeah. That's a pretty big it's a pretty important part of writing characters
Yeah,
is understanding how humans talk to each other.
exactly. Yeah, there is a lot as we get into it. I feel like I know what parts Melinda wrote when we get deeper into the Prime Directive stuff because it felt very somebody who was very well aware of how legal proceedings go about.
Yeah. Yep.
Just the thing I picked up in this scene where they're all talking. It seemed like, and I could be wrong, because it seemed like Pulaski, like Diana Muldaur and Deanna Marina Sirtis, it seemed like when they were talking at the table that there was like a lot of ADR for them.
Oh,
Like it didn't seem like it, I don't know why it would be, but it just seemed like when they were talking, like they had to go back and re-record those lines because
Are we talking about a young officer on the fast track to the academy? Or are we talking about a young man that we are guiding through adolescence and into adulthood?
You can't guide someone into adulthood. The experiences are unique to each person. Whether Wes succeeds or fails, he will learn from the experience.
I agree. I'm just questioning the speed at which we're moving.
the words and the way they were like emphasizing the words like didn't match with their mouths and their faces. It could have
interesting.
been all of them, but it was noticeably bad on the two of them.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on it. The only thing about this scene that I thought is weird is that, they're all discussing this thing about Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, too much pressure can break, and then like Pulaski for some reason is like very interested in making sure that he can like do a good job and
Mm-hmm.
not push too hard like she has any stake in Wesley.
I see. Yes, I see what you mean.
She doesn't really do much with him.
Yeah. They try in this episode to make all of the characters feel more realistic, but it's a thing where you have, 15 other episodes previously where it's like, Pulaski and Deanna like don't do much in the show.
No.
And it's like, it's fine. It's fine, but like it's an interest like you're saying, I agree with you. It's like they're great in this episode, their characters are great, but
Yeah.
doesn't have as much impact because they're typically very forgettable.
Well, it just feels a little forced because,
Yeah, forced. That's a
you
good way
know,
to put it. Yeah.
they're they have not been really involved.
Yes.
So that's all. I wrote down here in my notes, I said, Wesley's big promotion he might not be ready for. It's studying rocks from the safety of space.
Yeah.
Like,
We'll see if he's ready for that job.
and that's what made it even funnier to me. They're like, "Well, you're throwing too much pressure on him. He's not gonna be able to do it." And then it was like, what's he doing?" He's like, "Well, he has a team of people studying, the rocks from this planet." They're like, "Oh, is he going to the planet?" "Oh, no, you can't go to the planet."
It's too dangerous.
They're pulling up samples from like, the transporter and then looking at them in the microscope. It's like, "Oh, man, I sure hope Wesley can do it." I don't
don't
know
disagree.
how he's gonna do it.
I did think though the part when Picard specifically brings Wesley into the room and he talks to him, I
I did.
appreciated it. I liked all that stuff.
I like this whole scene. I really enjoy this conference scene with
Yeah.
everybody. Again, it made it feel realistic. It made it feel like the crew actually cares about training
Yes.
Wesley and that they're happy that he's on the ship without his mother and he's growing up to be a good Starfleet member.
Yeah.
I
100%.
was like, wow, you actually like you don't just let him run down engineering and do whatever he wants.
Right. I just appreciated Picard's line where he says something to the effect of, I value an officer who
Yeah.
like doesn't know what he's like, doesn't know the answer and asks questions, listens to the advice of others rather than an officer who just blunders ahead blindly but
Yep.
doesn't really know what's going on. And it's
I
like,
did like that.
I respect an officer who is prepared to admit ignorance and ask a question, rather than one who out of pride will blunder blindly forward.
I understand, sir.
it's like an obvious thing, but at the same time, it was just nice to hear him say it.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about that is that that's everybody on the bridge.
Yeah.
He's explaining everybody on the bridge. Like that's why his crew is the way they are, because they all work well with each other and they're not just all like, know-it-alls or arrogant.
Yeah, and there's many times they've shown Picard like somebody will say something to him and then he's like, and he like thinks about it. It's not like he just does it because he's the captain. Like he takes everybody's advice like to heart.
No, there's even a scene later on where Riker's like, "Hey, so what would Picard do?" And he's like, he would ask everybody their opinion and then make a choice based on it."
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe just do that then. Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, it's good. No, it was really good.
I
Then
like it.
we cut to the bridge and Data's at the back console and he's got all these pieces all over the
The
ground.
best scene of the episode. I enjoy this scene a lot because I
Yeah.
enjoy the clutter. This is funny. I enjoy that Worf he's a Klingon, but
Yeah.
he hates clutter apparently.
I think he just doesn't like things in his way.
No, he hates clutter.
He probably does. The thing that I just liked about it was probably the same reasons you did. I like that like Data is doing all of this and he's very intensely like involved and Worf is like genuinely interested in what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not like upset at first. He's kind of like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then he's like, because Data kind of like preloads it, where he's like, "Well, I'll have this cleaned up," and then Worf isn't like, "You better." He's like,
Good.
He's like, "What are you doing?" Right? And he tells him what he's doing. He's like, "Interesting." And then he's like, "Well, what about this thing? Can it do this? Can the project that you're working on, can it scan and look for these things?" And he's like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, that's interesting." And then he steps on it, and then he's like, And then Data's like, I will be, I will take this all to my room. Good.
Good.
Yeah.
There's a funny scene in there though where Worf is asking him all these like questions about, like you're saying, like, well, can it do this? Can it do this? And then he's like, oh, okay, sounds good. And then he like goes to like walk away, and then Data like continues to like talk about it.
Oh
And
yeah.
and Worf like turns back and he's like, okay, yeah, got it. Got it. Yeah, great. And then he leaves and then kicks it and he's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good
I
scene.
enjoy this. I enjoy
Yeah, it
this
was a good
scene.
scene.
It's also cool to see like Data invested in his like job, or well, not really his job, but like what he's been doing and trying to get these comms further.
Yeah. It's very reminiscent of the scene where he's intoxicated and he's putting the chips back into the wall.
Yes.
I think if I'm right with my notes, we cut to
This is when Wesley asks Deanna and Riker for advice.
Yes, okay.
He
And
says, "Can I walk with you and ask you for some advice?"
Yes.
And then Riker says, sure, it's free.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And he says the walk or the advice, and he says both. And I wrote down everything is free.
You're not wrong.
So wouldn't this phrase like not even be relevant?
It would be a thing that they would not talk like that. True.
You
Yes.
wouldn't say that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, what would you say? He would say, "Hey, can I walk with you?" And then he would say, "It doesn't bother me." And then he'd be like, "What? Walking with you or asking the advice?" And then he'd be like, "Either." Yeah.
It's just funny when they use these phrases, and it's like, well, if society is advanced to the point where they don't even use televisions anymore, the society also would advance past the point of using these phrases.
True.
I'm thinking about Jill from engineering. I'm thinking about Bill from geological studies. And the only issue is that
Yeah.
they're married, and
Well,
I'm
well,
12.
here's so so here's the really funny thing is you had a problem with like the top half part of this conversation, and I had a problem
Yeah.
with the bottom half of this
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Where he's going on and on about all this stuff, and then Deanna's just like, "Oh, you're just nervous because they're all older and have more experience than you."
Yes.
Like, well, yeah, he's not even like an ensign. So,
It's what Wesley says to him, and then what Riker says back. Wesley says, "What if there's some sort of like personality conflict?" And then
yeah.
Riker's like, "Well, you just put an end to it." And it's like
Well,
people,
first
they're
of all, he makes it
professionals.
sound like, "Oh, they're professionals in the Starfleet. We don't even argue with each other."
Right.
And then
But
he goes
that's
on like, "Hey, if it does happen, just handle it or come get me, one or the other." It's like,
right.
so many mixed signals, man.
It's a thing where I was like, when they said it, I was like, should there even be personality conflicts? Because all the things that like humanity has done away with, like pride and I don't know, just like having problems with one another. Like we all work together as a team now. Like we've gotten
Yeah.
past all of that. There's no reason to think that the other person is better or worse than you. We're all
I
like
don't
on the
buy it.
same playing field.
Yeah, I don't buy it. Because stuff like this, and I thought this episode did a good job of showing it like a real example.
This goes on to really honest. This honestly goes on to make a show how the Star Trek universe really is, and I think it's outstanding how they make his team like react and respond to him.
Yeah,
I
do
yeah,
too.
it was
But
like very impressive. I enjoyed it a lot.
and I think it's good. I thought I was happy with all that because like you, it's like, well, they're professionals, they shouldn't have any conflict. And then it's like immediately, like, oh, I don't know, I think we should do this other study. And he's like, well, it's gonna take 5 hours to set up that array, and I don't
Right,
think
right.
it's needed. Like you're gonna have stuff like that.
Yes.
It's not just gonna be like, you got it, sir. I love doing my job for free.
Right. I agree with you. Like I guess the hang up that I had with that statement is I'm thinking more of like people being like just like not getting along with each other and
Like
like bickering.
insubordinate.
Yeah, and like just the whole like all the nasty stupid stuff that we deal when you get like 4 or 5 people in a room that are working together and they're all just like they're miserable, they don't want to be there to and they're
Yeah.
just they're negative. It's like that's how I interpreted personality conflicts when they're talking
Yeah.
about it with Riker. But what they end up to go on to show in the episode, it's like, oh well, this makes sense. This type of conflict and this type of issue
Yeah.
makes like perfect
Well,
sense.
even Wesley's fear of like, well, I'm young and they're all more experienced.
Right.
I get that, but also like you're saying, like in Starfleet in this time period, like that shouldn't be an issue because
Yeah.
nobody is fighting through the corporate ladder to be more important
Yes.
or have better roles on the ship.
Yeah, and it's a thing where the writers
Yeah.
have pigeonholed themselves yet again by making the Enterprise the only starship ever in space and ever to exist. Because
Yeah.
it's like there's absolutely no way that in all of the Federation's history you haven't had a younger person put together a team of older people who may or
Yeah.
may not be more educated than the younger person. It's like
They
Wesley is not the first like smart person to come along who is young. It's just
No.
no.
Because their society is dependent on the fact that kids
Yes.
don't just like go to school, come home, play video games. They're all smart. They all go to the academy. They all
Right.
have like
Yes.
scientific jobs.
Yes.
So they're all smart, right? Like that's yeah. So yeah, I don't know. But they also make it sound like the Enterprise is like I mean, I get that it's the flagship, but it's like they're not the only ones out there doing
Right.
like scientific studies and stuff.
No.
You know, they make it sound like, well, if you're going to be anybody, you got to be on the Enterprise. It's like, yeah, but there's 1,000 other ships that go out and scan
Do the
solar
exact same
systems
thing.
and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah. The galaxy is a big place. Then we cut to the Geo Lab, I guess is what we'll call it.
Geolab.
That was pretty cool.
He puts
Yeah,
that
the
little
heating up the
thing on
rock
it.
was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. I really enjoyed that.
I wish you would have asked me first, Wesley. I hate working with couples.
Yeah, yes. You're gonna have married people work together? Oh my. Eee.
That's gonna make you and me the third wheel.
And then we'll just talk about it now. He later has the team, and I was like, they don't really, they kind of indicate in the scene that like Wesley isn't going to change his team members. So then I was like,
Yeah.
so is her spouse like the guy looking in the microscope thing that they don't have at the conference table for some reason, or is it the older man
Absolutely.
that speaks up? I was like, which one's her spouse? I was like, it doesn't seem like there's an issue or conflict at all here.
No, there wouldn't be because society is perfect.
It's a decent scene though. It's a decent scene, even though
I
it's
do
like
like it. Yeah.
it's a supporting guest actor and all of that. Like it's immediately what I want from Star Trek. When
Yeah.
they have these type of things where it's like we're going to talk about it again later, but the mere fact that I guess I'll speak on it a little bit now because there's not a ton in between here, but the fact that they're incredibly kind and nice to Wesley, but also kind of condescending to him is like the perfect way to write a character in Star Trek because it's like he's a child. They have more experience. They want him to succeed. They want him to do well. So they're trying to help him by assuming that they know more than he does, which is condescending. But at the same time,
well, yeah,
they're not like mean or rude or inconsiderate of him in like a larger way. I was kind of blown away by how perfect his team was in the sense of like how you expect Starfleet officers to act in general.
Yeah, I agree with that. So it's like when he meets that guy for the first time,
yeah,
they kind of play that off like, oh, this guy's going to give Wesley some issues.
Yes.
But then when he says like, hey, so we don't want you to get too overwhelmed, so just like ask me anything, like I'm here to help.
Right.
And then Wesley's kind of the one that's like immediately kind of, condescending about that as he's like, I'll be fine, thanks.
Yeah.
But it's like, so already, like, that's not what Picard was telling you,
Right. Yeah.
Like, we get it, you're smart, but like this guy is saying, like, hey, look, like we're all a team.
Right.
This is your first thing. Let's be good with each other.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't think that came across as condescending in that part.
No, not in that part. No, it's later. I just was talking advancedly about it. But yeah.
No, I know what you mean. But yeah, I kind of liked that scene,
Yeah. I totally agree. So
then Data goes to the holodeck.
Well, he has this little thing. Now this hook, the whole premise of this episode relies on this on this bit. And I honestly, as the episode went on and things of that nature, I really I found myself in a conundrum. Data's in his quarters and he's at his computer and stuff is he's like, which is great. All this him doing the scanning and like talking to the computer and getting all the parameters like better and
Yeah.
closer and it is
I
it's very
isn't
good.
that is that funny to you that like you tell the computer to do something that's just like nah,
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, well, try to pinpoint this, and it's like, oh yeah, that works. I can do that. And it's like, hey, do this, and it's like, no, nope. And you're like, all right, so do it again, but run this protocol. And it's like, oh yeah, found it.
It's
So is the computer like smart or is it not smart?
it's Chat
Because
GPT. You're like, do this thing, and it's like this, and you're like, no, like this, and it's like this, and you're like, no, not quite this, and it's like,
almost like that.
oh,
Get rid of this, but leave this. And it's like
yeah,
this, and you're like, nope, that's the opposite of what I just said.
yeah. I guess the question I'll pose to you and to our fan base here,
Yeah.
Data is very analytical, and he's very follow orders, right?
Yeah, I know where you're going, yeah. I don't believe that he would break the Prime Directive
Yes, I feel like
for emotions.
him hearing the voice and then him responding is just a little it's a little hard to
Yeah.
take that leap.
See, I don't have a problem with him responding, but when that response was immediately like, "Oh yeah, we don't have warp."
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, then
That's true. That's a good point.
End transmission.
Oh, I don't, excuse me. And then
Oh, sorry. Goodbye. Goodbye, child.
Goodbye, child. Yeah, I don't know. It was a thing that I had like a small problem with.
Yeah.
That like I just don't think Data would have done what Data was doing.
Yeah. So here's where I stand.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the Prime Directive.
I
So
think
how's
it's
that
foolish.
grab you? I think the Prime Directive can go to That's how I feel. But
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't think calculative data would answer and then carry on communication and disobey the Prime Directive.
It's a thing where if you put another officer in that area, it feels like it shouldn't play out, but because Data has like inherent innocence in him,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, well, of course Data would follow this to the nth degree, and it's not creepy that a grown man is like
No,
communicating with a child.
that's why it has to be Data.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking like Jordy or Deanna following this wouldn't be quite as bad, but then you think like it's kind of strange having an adult like have a relationship with a
It
small
is kind of
child.
strange. Yeah, it is kind of strange. It's like, well, if it was a crew member, it's like, well, it's emotional and the kid's gonna die and you don't want to see people get hurt. And it's like, well, it's emotional. But also like Data makes sense too because he's that child mentality.
Exactly.
His logic pattern would indicate that like, Prime Directive bad, but also like the planet blowing up and people dying is also bad.
Here's my solution fix. What if the senior staff is putting together the thing for Wesley and they're doing that? And Data's been in charge is put in charge of like a kindergarten school on the ship. And he's
Yeah.
teaching like young children how to like do something, like scan for radio
Robotics.
frequencies like in the solar system or use sensors or something, right?
Mhm.
And this one of the kids on the ship is like kind of a smarty. He's kind of like Wesley. He's kind of a
Nope.
brainiac.
Nope. You lost me already.
Oh, okay, sorry.
There can only be one chosen one.
And that kid puts together he's the one, he or she, connects a radio frequency, a comm link to this voice, and they bring Data over, and he or she is like, "Hey, Data, listen to this thing that I found. I'm talking to somebody," and he comes over, and it's like, "Hello, blah blah blah," and now he's invested and he's talking to the character, and now it's right, yeah, exactly. I feel like that might have helped me not be so like, with Data
Like he was
following.
investigating this thing on his own without telling anybody, which is not like him.
Right, exactly.
That's what that blue guy got in trouble for.
Exactly. Exactly. How surprised were you when Pen Pals had nothing to do with Wesley talking to Murdoch or
I was glad. I was pleasantly
Mendon?
surprised. Mendon, Murdoch. Well, he's friends with both of them now, so
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was glad. Yeah.
How funny was it too when we come back from the commercial break of Data going like, "Hello," and we come back and then it's like Picard's like, "Captain's log," blah 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 blah. And he's like, "We've been doing this for 6 weeks," and I was like, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I know. I know. I know. And like if you missed that, like later on, Data's like, "Oh, I've been communicating with this thing for 6 weeks."
But this is the weird thing in that
He
scene.
says no, he says longer than that,
He
doesn't
says
he? Yeah.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, 8 weeks?
So the 2 weeks leading up to when they got to that planet, he heard it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talked
I
to him.
guess so. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what I didn't quite understand.
And to me, that's what makes him doing it worse.
It does make it way,
If it was
way
like a
worse.
day and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna blow up," and it's like, "Oh man, this is bad. This is bad." But it's like, no, I disobeyed the prime director for 8 weeks, and now I'm talking to you about it now because
Yeah, it's
I should probably do something.
gotten way out of hand.
She kind of knows a lot about us, and well, I don't know.
It's like, and then Picard's like, what do you mean though? He's just like, what do you mean you've been talking to her all this time? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh well, they have the means of understanding where you're coming from, right? And he's like, no, I haven't told her that. He's like,
do they have warp technology? He's like, no, but they have doors that shut when you put your hands up. That's kind of like,
well, that's kind of cool.
That's kind of like warp. The doors warp.
Yeah.
From all the lava.
Oh. Data.
Data, where did you go, Data? All 12 of the volcanoes are erupting.
Yeah.
The whole surface is volcanoes.
We built our home on a valley of volcanoes.
Yeah.
But I think you and I both can agree that the thing that I really liked about this stretch, this is where Wesley has the back and forth thing where they talk about, I think, scanning the thing. Where he's like, I want the scan of this specific thing. And then they're like, well, that would take a lot of time. And that's a lot of, and it's like, it might not lead to anything. And that might be a huge waste of time and blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
They make all these things. But the thing to me.
Yeah, you're right. I'm being 10 forward.
Yeah.
I need a drink.
I need a drink. Extra large glass of milk.
Yeah. Milk, chocolate, hot.
Frozen. This is where the scene comes where they're nice to him, but they're kind of condescending.
It's Wesley's first assignment. He's 12 and he's already in the bar. It's gonna be a long.
It's gonna be a long road to captaincy. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing I really liked, and you probably did like it too, when Data is explaining to Picard what he's been doing, and Picard gets off the horse and all that, which I thought
he gets off his high horse.
Does get off his very high horse. The thing I was also thinking it's funny is imagine being that, like, they've got a location they filmed in some ranch or something, and then Patrick Stewart's in like appropriate horse riding gear, and then you have Marina Sirtis and Brett Spiner in like bright Star Trek colors. He's got gold paint on. Like, these two people have to be kind of strange looking while he looks normal, and you're off on location like filming this thing, and it's like, well, it's really because they're on the holodeck. It has to look like this.
I like it.
The thing that I really appreciated about this was, and it also kind of makes it worse, is the fact that Data's gonna go, and then Picard's like, hey, you can't keep talking to this girl.
Yeah.
And Data doesn't really go, I just like the fact that Data's like, no, I understand. And just like he follows orders. Like he doesn't give it back to Picard and like give reasons why he should keep talking to her. He's just like, I understood. And
he does too. He legitimately does.
Yeah.
break off communication.
Yeah. And I just appreciated that as a writing point, that like Data is an android and he has no emotions. So while us, like everybody else later in the episode, when they're having horrible feelings about all of it, like
Yeah.
Data doesn't. He just is he's very black and white about it. He's very analytical.
Yeah, he literally gets up to like delete the frequency.
Right, exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
But again, like if he doesn't, then what's he doing? Why is he doing it? Why is he doing this in the first place if he doesn't have any emotional connection?
And I think that is the twist of Data. Like he's an emotional automaton, but he does things that make him appear human.
I think what it is it comes back to my argument that the Prime Directive is junk. Because now you have a perfect computer telling you like, well, no, that's wrong. We really should step in and save this person, save these people. Like he's being more human than the humans because logic would indicate that like, well, it doesn't matter that they don't have spaceships, like they are in need of help.
Right.
Which I enjoy. I enjoy like the whole conclusion of this.
Yeah.
This episode. But yeah.
But Picard brings up some good arguments when we get there.
So. Oh, dude, I wrote down his whole speech. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Before we get into that, this is the halfway point. Go down to the comment section and write Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we come back and now we're in 10 forward and Wesley comes in and Riker is talking to that lady, that officer.
Yeah, he's the outrageous Okona.
Yeah. It's an interesting decision. And I get it. It's like it's fine that he's obviously talking to other people on the ship and that he's like a normal person. But I think that lady's reaction to him and his reaction to her is like a little bit much. Like it's like, oh.
Well, here's the thing. You're gonna be in space for 5 years, Will.
Yeah.
People are gonna do stuff, you know?
Yes, I agree, but I already have an Imzadi, so I think I would be.
That's not serious. That's just a fun little joke.
I thought it was funny, and I wrote it. I thought it was funny that Riker. It was kind of endearing. He whispers to the officer. He says, "Family emergency."
Family emergency.
Oh.
And then he walks over to Wesley's table.
I like that. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I like this whole scene with Wesley and Riker. The whole conversation they had was pretty good.
It's great. It's very, very good. And I think it's because like Wesley brings up at really good points and like Riker gives him real answers. And this is the type of thing I expected him to have at the end of that episode with Guinan. Like this is the type of back and forth they needed to have. He helps Wesley come to his own conclusion by giving him a little bits of things to think on. It's like, yes, I understand that in the episode with Guinan that like you have your first love that doesn't work out, they break your heart, you're never gonna see that person again, and you're never gonna be with that person, and like, yep,
deal with it, buddy.
Right. And it's like it sucks, and you know, that's just how it goes. Like everybody has their first heartbreak, and that's just how life is. It's like I get it. But it's like she's so like eat my shorts about it that it's not fun. Yeah. It's like it's not interesting and compelling like this Riker and Wesley thing.
Well, this is the part in my notes where I wrote down it feels like this is the first time Wesley's being trained and shown how to be a man and lead, not just a whiny boy genius.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yeah, then he immediately goes back to the Geo Lab thing, and he is like, hey, we're doing this. And I, again, applaud them. He comes in, I want this done. He's like, you got it. And he just gets up and goes and does it. He doesn't say to him.
Yeah, we've been over this, Wesley.
Right. I really just enjoyed that he was like,
Yeah.
okay, you got it, buddy. And just gets up and gets to
Yeah,
it.
he did. He came in and he was more authoritative, and he's like, "Hey, so that's that study. I want it done."
Yeah.
He could have been a little bit like, I guess the point was that he's in the authority,
Yeah.
but like he could have been like, "Hey, so I've been thinking about it, and
Yeah,
I
he
do
could have.
actually
Yeah,
want that
he could have
sample.
been a little nicer, but yeah. I agree.
I want you to get up from whatever you're doing this instant." You see this
Sick,
sweater?
sick and tired of you just sitting around melting rocks.
Yeah. I'm the bridge crew, buddy.
Ah, man.
Yeah.
You know what's really good?
Yeah.
That's Alex Kurtzman Star Trek writing right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All day.
All day.
All day, day.
So now we get into an interesting decision. First off the bat is having the conference of this issue in Picard's quarters, not in the
Not
observation
the ready
lounge.
room. Yeah.
It was a very interesting thing, and like Geordi gets up and what's he do? He gets like a drink of water or something. He gets something to drink, and it's like they're all sitting around the thing. It really made me think about Strange New Worlds, where Pike has people like in his room, and he has like the kitchen and the fireplace and stuff.
Yeah.
It really,
Pike would have been cooking during this discussion.
yeah, he probably would have been making people stuff to eat. Yeah, yeah, it's
With
true.
the fire going.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course,
Sucking down the oxygen.
But other than a couple of the times they've played cards together, this is arguably probably the best back and forth room of like this is like the Avengers sitting down at the table and they talk about the problem. It's
Oh, who's that? Oh, just somebody we blew up in Sarkovia.
oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's this whole sequence is very, very excellent.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good.
I
This is good writing. This is good like character
yeah.
writing, dialogue. Yeah.
And I love how like each person gets a voice, each person gets to talk, they show their character in like the best way possibles. I do think it's an absolute joke to call Worf a coward, though. That seemed a little stupid, but she's kind of stupid.
Well,
so
yeah, I get her point.
I get her point too, but like that's not what Worf was. That's not why
No.
Worf was saying don't do it. He's
That
not
would
doing
have
it
fit
'cause
better.
he's afraid of the consequences. That's not why he's
It would have fit better if that line was thrown in after Picard did the whole,
Yes.
like it's here to protect us.
Yes.
That would have made more sense there because Worf starts off the meeting basically. He says there is no option. The Prime Directive is an absolute.
Right.
And she goes into this whole thing about like, well, that's cowardly.
Right.
I don't agree with that. So first of all, it's interesting that you have these people that have been in Starfleet for so long, and they're not really a big fan of the Prime Directive.
No, right.
You're like, well, that's an interesting concept.
It's an interesting thing where, as you see in this episode, like the Prime Directive is there for the reasons that it's there for. Because Picard makes like amazing points that like, okay, sure, this planet's exploding, you're gonna help these people. Great. He's like, what if it's a disease? And they're like, oh yeah, totally. Help those people out. He's like, all right, what if it's a war? It's like, well, now you're picking a side. What side of should win? But what if a starship was in orbit in like the 1860s of our planet and they were looking and it's like, oh wow, these people in gray uniforms are getting murdered. Like we should step in and destroy the blue uniform people. And it's like, oh well, now the Confederate Army wins the Civil War. It's like who knows what that would have done to America as a nation.
Yeah.
Or
and they always say like the big
Nazis
thing is like, well, then they know that there's like life outside of their planet.
And that too, yes.
And you're like, okay. Does that that's gonna like affect them that drastically? I mean,
well, that's the thing. Like, you can agree that like if we're close, like we're getting to a point in our own civilization that if like aliens revealed themselves, like
yeah,
I don't
think it's a big deal.
It's not a big deal, but at the same time, it's like, would society collapse among itself? Like, I don't know if society right now is really ready for there to be another form of life that they can respect. Like, they barely respect the people on the very planet.
Well, that's true, but I also think that that would bring society and planets together, knowing that, like, hey, it's a lot bigger than just this.
I agree. I agree that it should, in theory, cause nations to unify and realize that it has to be the Earth against space. I don't disagree with that, but there is a maturity that comes with that it's like, how do you know when the right time to do that is? Because, like, showing up, 50 years earlier, 100 years earlier from where we are now, like, would be devastating. Humanity as a whole is not really great when dealing with new things being brought to their attention.
No. No, I mean, we couldn't even handle, like, wearing masks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I know. I know. I know. It's a
but that's like the conundrum, right? That's why the Prime Directive is like an interesting thing of discussion, because it feels so close-fisted with things when you're like, that's so stupid. You're like, they don't fly in space, or they can't go super fast in space, so you're not going to talk to them. Like, okay, that's so stupid. But then you look at it and you really think about, like, what would the introduction of, like, not only are you not alone, but also there's like millions of other types of aliens. It's not like, oh, we meet one group of aliens and oh wow, there's another life force out there. It's like, oh no, your planet is like one among billions of planets of people, and you're just a drop in the water, even more so than you already are on your own planet.
Well, that's true too, yeah.
And a lot of societies can't handle that type of information. They would just implode because they're not ready for that type of information.
Yeah. So where would humanity be if the Vulcans had a Prime Directive?
Well, that's where they get the Prime Directive from.
Yeah.
Is from the Vulcans.
Because the Vulcans didn't they thought that they shouldn't have showed up.
Right. Well, the whole reason that the Vulcans came to Earth is because humanity reached warp drive. They showed that they were able to go out into space. So they come and make first contact.
Yeah, but then they told us that it was too much the whole time they were here.
Well, that is like that's the interesting conundrum with Enterprise. Is like in TOS and Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, and I guess a little bit of Voyager, they kind of established that, like, the Prime Directive is like, you don't interact with people unless they have warp capability, and you try not to interfere. And you're like, great. And then Enterprise took that and then was like, but we're gonna make. I haven't really looked into it, but I think they were trying to say, like, how do we get it to be like not really close to that time period, like first contact, and we try to make it like significantly later, where it's like 100 years after, like 90 years after first contact. And it's like, well, why would humanity have not done anything with the Vulcans' help for like almost a century? And it's like, well, that's because the Vulcans were holding them back. And it's like, well, why would the Vulcans hold them back? Their Spock is really great. It's like, well, that's because there's secret Romulans in their higher command structure. So it's like, that's what that episode where Archer brings the pyramid, the Kirshara thing, and it outs the Romulans in the high command or whatever.
Yeah. The Vulcans are too worried about their war with Andorians.
Right.
They don't want people in space.
But when you look at like how Saval and T'Pol and all those other different people, all those Vulcans that they introduced, like when you take how they are and then you put them up against Spock, it's like they're not even the same. And that was the thing that Mandy Koto wanted to write to in season 4, which was like, you have to explain why the Vulcans are so dynamically different from the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
It's kind of like retro writing, but yes. But that is what happens. It's like, well, yeah, why would they do that? Why would they hold humanity back? It's like, by the understanding of the Prime Directive here, they wouldn't and they shouldn't. But basically the Romulans were secretly trying to get through the Vulcans, basically keep
They just
humanity
didn't
suppressed.
they didn't want to see Archer's dad in space. That's all it was.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing, and I think it's a fun scene, and it's a good argument, and I enjoyed it. I think I'm like 90-10 on the fact that hearing Sarjenka's voice is what makes Picard change his mind.
And not just what he says.
Yeah, it's like I like it, but there's a sliver of me, that 10% of me, that's like I don't really like it, because it's like you've already made this decision, and now that you hear her crying out, it's like, but this is what that's already been happening. Like, Data wasn't making that up. It's just like, it's just showing that now that you're confronted with it too, like, you can't go through with your own actions. And it's like, it makes him a little weaker than I wanted.
Because he disconnected from it. It's easier to disconnect from it. Yeah.
The other thing is too, like, when he goes to terminate the frequency and she's talking, I was like, is really what she says in that transmission really a plea?
Data, where are you? Why won't you answer? Are you angry with me? Please, I'm so afraid. Data, where are you?
Wait.
She just kind of says, like, where are you, Data? Please don't leave me, I'm afraid. It's like, I don't really hear her. She didn't say anything in that blip that Picard hears.
Yeah, not really.
Like,
I mean,
can't you rescue me from this planet? Like, we're all going to die. Like, I don't know.
The please is like probably the only thing. That's like, oh, she's crying out for help.
Yeah, I guess her
please
just
don't
saying,
leave me is kind of a. That's about it, though. I mean, there's not.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of But it was interesting. We cut to after commercial break where Picard's like, well, now we're going to have to do this thing. They show Drema 4, and it has like these streaks of like volcanic activity on the planet, which is I enjoyed. That was cool.
I like that. The other thing I liked in that scene there was that, I forget who it says, but they say she can't ask for help from someone that she doesn't know.
Oh.
And Data says, she knows me. And then Riker says, what a perfectly vicious little circle.
Oh, yes.
I was like, that's pretty good.
Yes.
A whisper in the dark has become a plea. Yeah. I enjoy the part here where they're like, all right, well, we're gonna do it. And then Picard's like, hey, number one, you know where we're at?
Oh, yes.
He's like, where's that, sir? And he's like, right here. And he's like, well, hey, that's pretty good.
It's really good. Yeah. I also like to we touched on it, but I like to, going back to what you were talking about in that scene, like when they hear the little girl talking, Sarjenka talking, they're all like, "Oh my god!" They're all like immediately like, "Oh please!" Data's just like, "All right, locating frequency. Here we go, isolating, and oh wait,
Data, please." Worf's like, "This is why we don't talk to people.
The child must die." I really like the fact that the B story where Wesley getting the geological thing with the team played into the A story, and his team was good. I like that they all sat around and Picard didn't like nitpick about like it just it played so good. They all had the right questions, they had the right answers.
Yep.
It's like boom boom boom.
What does he say? No theories, no speculation. Can you do it?
And then they still don't answer, and they're just like,
we'll get started.
And I was like, that's still not an answer.
It's not an answer, yeah. We think so. I don't want you to think. I want you to do it. But his teammate even like praises him, right? He's like, hey, we weren't going to run it, but Wesley wanted it, and now that's why we have this information.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Then we get it. You said it. We get tea Earl Grey hot, and he gets actual tea, and he actually drinks it. Yeah.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
And he says, "Hey, Captain, where would you say we are now?" And he's like, "I was like, man, that's good. I like this."
Yeah. The going back to the in for a penny thing, this is what I think from my office was talking about, how he says it and then Data does like he looks and he does like his look off and he kind of
he's
like moves his
calculating
eyes and then he's like, oh yes, exactly.
Yes.
And instead of being like, oh yes, a term from 1510 where, and it's like, and he goes,
a penny, a shilling.
Right, exactly. You're right. Yeah, he doesn't do all that, which was
an insignificant piece of copper used to trade for a pound of.
Yeah. And I also wrote, which is funny, you and I both enjoyed that. I both wrote where we are now, and then later I wrote, where would you say we are now, sir? I wrote both of those things down because they
it's good. That's a good little moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
Then we get to the transporter, and he's like, "Hey, O'Brien, take a nap.
Take a nap."
And he goes and stands in the corner.
I'll be right over here, catching some Z's or whatever he says.
Yeah. And then he sends him down there, and then he's like, "Hey, you need it on the bridge." And he's like, "Hey, I got to go back to the bridge." And he's like, "Oh, what's that, sir? I just woke up." I'll have him out of there as smooth as ice, he says.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the thing that I had a contention with. I was like, why would Picard call Riker to the bridge?
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately.
I don't know.
And then he gets up to, so then they cut later, they end up cutting. Now after the commercial break, we cut up there. Riker's just standing there. He's not doing anything.
Doesn't need to be up there. Yeah, I know.
I was like, and I get it. It's funny to have O'Brien be caught up in the mix. It also allows Data to bring Sarjenka to the bridge because O'Brien doesn't have the authority to stop Data from doing that. I get that that's kind of why they wrote Riker out of the room. It's a
weird call.
Yeah.
It's a weird call. Is there a child on my bridge? He knows I hate children up here.
He knows I hate them.
What is he doing?
They go down to the planet, and Data's walking around, and he's like looking at things, and he's tricordering the machine that ends up revealing that that's how she's talking to Data, and he's walking around, and then in the background, there's this terrible, terrible doll. That somebody clearly just went and bought from like a store, like a thrift store, and just put it in like clothing and painted its face red and gave it like bushy red hair. And they're just like, yep, Sarjenka's people, Drema 4 inhabitants, that's what their dolls look like. And I was like,
that's what the Dramamine 4s look like.
I was like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. That's what Andrew took note of when he was making that quest line with those.
He was like, I love
the dolls.
Yeah. The wall thing was cool, like you were talking about. I like
the doorway opens, yeah.
Yeah. I like the fact that I don't know if it was like the camera shake and Brett's spine. I don't know what made it, but when the earthquake or the quake would happen and he would shake, it felt good actually. I was like, oh, this feels...
He's like, wow, that looks like a bad time out there.
Yeah, and then she comes running in. I like how when she comes in, she's at the thing, and he's like, hello, and she's like, oh my god, like trying to get out of there, and he's like, I am Data, and she's like, oh.
I enjoyed that her voice was not just the communicator, like making it echoey, like her voice legitimately was echoey.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's a fun touch.
And I think you can appreciate this too, like, yes. But she actually looks a little alien.
She does. They even went to the extra effort of giving her like finger extensions.
Yes.
Which is like, oh, I like that. That was good. Yeah, it's a little weird that he brings her like to the bridge, right?
It's strange when he's like to beam up. It's like, if anything, it would just be like, have her describe to him where your family is, and then have O'Brien like search for that outcropping, like where her family is, and then like beam her to that location.
Yeah.
Or near that location or something. I don't know. Beaming her up is like one bad decision, but taking her to the bridge is like a way worse decision.
Well, beaming her to where her parents is, then her parents are going to see the technology. But beaming her up and then erasing her brain, much better.
Well, just don't beam her that close to the family.
Yeah.
But in general, that seems like it's a perfect time for trivia.
Oh, not again. All right, now you're overacting.
So, the story for this episode was pitched by Hannah Louise Shearer. Maurice Hurley was instantly fond of the premise, calling it his second favorite premise of the series after The Last Outpost. Maurice Hurley goes on to remark, somebody's out there, some little kid on some little planet sending out a CQ, which we've learned that means giving out a general call on like a ham radio type of thing. He goes on, just like I did in my bedroom when I was 10 years old with my little crystal sets, sending out CQs and never getting it back. But here somebody says, anybody out there? And a voice replies, yes. Wait a minute. Which is really funny that he says that, because a couple weeks back, my dad was telling me about, like, this is exactly what he did as a kid. He had mononucleosis, and he had like a little ham radio with a crystal. He says a crystal set, and my dad had a little antenna out of his bedroom window, and he would like talk to truck drivers and stuff. And he had a huge map like in his like on his bedroom wall. He would like help people find directions and stuff. I forgot what he said his call sign was, but yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. The teleplay was then assigned to Melinda Snodgrass. During story meetings, the writers considered various characters who could interact with the child. Snodgrass was successful in convincing the other staffers that Data was the best fit for the tale. She later explained, you can picture Data becoming entranced and answering the question, is there anyone out there? First, he's an android, and if you ask him a question, you're going to get an answer. Secondly, the whole thing would be so charmingly intriguing to him that he would do it. You never could picture any of the other characters doing that, but Data can make the mistake. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, and step out of his careful Starfleet training, because he's really just growing up. He's more of a child than Wesley. So, things that we commented on, Melinda Snodgrass thought about in advance, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I like that.
The writers had to limit the closeness of Data and Sarjenka because Nikki Cox's orange makeup became smudged so easily on contact.
Yeah.
This episode featured the only location shoot for season 2, where Picard has his holodeck sequence, which was filmed at a ranch near the LA suburb of Thousand Oaks. And the impetus of this scene arose from Melinda Snodgrass's love of horses. Then the director, Winrich Colby, he remarks, if I remember correctly, that was the one of those cases where I felt the original script I got, the white pages, the first draft, was very, very nice. It was a very personal story. Rick Berman or someone else, maybe it was Gene Roddenberry, I don't know, felt we needed more of a technical surrounding story in that one. Suddenly, out went more and more of the character issue, and in came more and more tech talk. That to me is a problem. I don't necessarily agree with the assessment that more technical jargon enhances the stories. These stories should be left alone. I think Pen Pals could have been a better show than it was. So
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'd have to see what they were offering to really have an opinion on that. But they do such a really good job with Wesley's stuff that I don't think that it detracts from Data's storyline like at all. As a final bit of thing.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So they
obviously weren't able to figure out how to get the ears to work.
No. So this is the original concept art of Sarjenka. Rick Sternbach made this sketch.
It's horrifying.
But Michael Westmore kind of kept pushing it, and he says, I don't recall exactly what the script said, but I seem to remember different skin, different hair, and little skin splotches, which we're famous for. Someone on staff once made up a fake script cover, Attack of the Aliens with bumps on their heads. if there was a new alien makeup, chances were they got bumps or splotches. So Michael Westmore said he lost the elongated ears but kept the shag haircut. He did the orange skin and accents it with gold glitter to give it a metallic sheen. He also made long finger extensions for her, which were made out of clear plastic and fitted over her own fingers. They were translucent, so that when she held up her hands, the light would shine through them, producing a wonderful effect. Unfortunately, in filming the episode, the effect was never focused upon. So,
Plus, we already had ET, so
I think the sketch is fine. Like having big giant ears and weird like splotches is fine. Like it's okay. She does look alien, but her creation on the right is way more alien looking in appearance than a thing with big pointy ears and like liver spots.
It's definitely better. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was trivia. We come back to the episode. I think like we were talking about O'Brien is great. He's like, what are you doing? Like, well, I'm going to the bridge. And he's like, you're bringing that with you? And she's like, please don't leave me here. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. And he's like, that would be quite impossible.
Yeah, I don't know why he calls it that.
It does feel weird. I think it's because
like
I do think it's because he doesn't know what's happening. Because he's not on the
xenophobic.
I'm going to say in the way that they write it that O'Brien has no idea about Sarjenka. He doesn't know anything about what's going on. And when Sarjenka comes up, like he doesn't know whether it's a girl or a boy, so he just says that. Which, you know, by today's terms, he may have should have said they. What are you like? You're going to take them up to the bridge? That would have been better, but you know, it's 80s. They say that. And they point and shake their finger.
They say gross. Aliens are disgusting.
Right, exactly. I thought it was interesting that Picard is annoyed at first, but then he continues to concede as he has like the whole time. Like,
well, I like that they're both worried about him. And then he shows up and then just immediately like, I wish he would have died on the planet.
Yes. I thought it was a little interesting that they write Sarjenka to be pretty calm for a little girl. Like, she doesn't like Deanna approaching her.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, she's not really, like, freaking out about a lot of things.
Yeah. I think because, like, that child wonderment.
I see. True.
Yeah.
But the thing that we were talking about was she was like, yes, I'll take you to sick bay. We'll have a good time. No. And then going around, and it's like, it's okay. They won't hurt you. Nobody wants to hurt you. We'll just look after you. No.
We'll get you a snack.
Please don't.
Yeah. She's really bad.
Yeah. I sense that she's frightened.
No, really. For a ship counselor, and you know, she's really bad. She's really bad with kids. She's really bad with a distraught child.
She's a good actress, though. Nikki Cox is a good actress. She plays that scene very well. Thought it was really interesting that Pete, after they get everything all set with the planet and everything, and they fix the planet, and now it's time to bring her back. Picard tells her to take her to sick bay, and then he goes in privately, and he's like, "Okay, doctor, can you get rid of this little girl's memories?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, I can, in theory."
If her brain's in the same place as ours.
Right, exactly. And then she grabs that Elasian singer
stone, yeah.
That's with her and all this stuff. And I kind of
feel... First and last.
Yeah, 100%. They, I feel like how he brings her back is kind of a mixed bag. Because obviously it's really sentimental and sweet and like a thing it's showing Data's like he is becoming more human, where he's like sentimental and he doesn't want Sarjenka to forget about him, but he also knows that he understands the conflict. But it's just like, I feel like as a robot, like he wouldn't do that. Like as an android, he would just be like, no, I'm contaminating her society, so I'm not giving her a rock that saves.
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of a thing.
I know.
So it's one of those things that it's great for television, but it doesn't make sense for in-world stuff.
No, it doesn't. I know. I agree with you.
And then we get a really great outro with him and Picard, where Picard says, "A step closer to understanding humanity," and it plays the little Star Trek tune. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
Remembrance and regrets, they too are a part of friendship.
Yes, sir.
And understanding that has brought you a step closer to understanding humanity.
So the one nice thing too, while they're wiping her memory, is Pulaski says, "You did a good thing, Data," which I thought was cool that she had that scene with him to like tell him that like, you made the right choice. You saved these people.
Yeah, like basically it propels how she's felt about the whole thing from the
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also like how, when she first came on the Enterprise, she was like, "Oh, Dad, I don't care about robots."
Yeah, true. That's
Now,
a
like
good point.
now, the robot of the ship has to teach you how to be human.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the quote you're talking about. So Picard says, "Obligations go beyond duty."
Yeah.
One of my officers, one of my friends was troubled, and I had to help. And Data says, "She won't remember me, but I will remember her." And he says, "Remembrance and regrets, they too are part of friendship, and understanding that has brought you a step closer to understanding humanity."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. And that's how they do it in Star Trek is they hit you with those quotes and then play that little
Do zabadi.
And they just they let it linger on him like kind of smirking, and then they're like, fade to the ship.
Next week on Star Trek.
You're like, oh, I have to watch the next one. Well, that was what we thought of the episode. That's our general review. But don't click off this video quite yet, because right now we're about to do the thing that everyone's been waiting for.
Woo! Ending.
Caleb.
So, Caleb, who gets the Erica Ortegas Award for being the most unlikable?
The geological husband guy. I don't even know which one he is.
Yeah, I don't even know what he is either.
It's either the guy looking at the binocular thing, the
older man talking.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of them.
Hate him.
There's only supposed to be 3 of them, so it's funny that those 2 people change from scene to scene. So
that's why he doesn't like them. That's what happens when they're married couples. They change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll take it. Next is the Elizabeth Cutler Award for being the most forgettable.
Sorjanka's parents. What are they doing?
Just hanging out.
And they literally let their kid like run back to the house.
Yeah, they're like, where did she go? I don't know.
You were supposed to watch her. No, you were supposed to watch her.
Yeah. True.
Yep. Forgettable. Idiots.
Idiots. Well, next is the Mugatu Award for the best alien of the episode.
Sorjanka.
Yes. An alien who's not Worf.
Yeah. What a concept.
Well, I think we've had a long streak of Worf.
Well, we haven't had anything on the ship.
No, I know. That's what I mean. We
No.
just haven't had anything.
It'll be Worf next week, though. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, certainly. Next is the Trip Tucker Award for the MVP of the episode.
Data.
Yeah. Data talks to Sarjenka, right? He opens the door.
Saves them. He saves the whole planet.
Yep. I agree. Well, there's a lot of VPs, but Data is the
VPs.
MVP.
I mean, honestly, technically it would be Wesley because without his team, they wouldn't have been able to stop the volcanoes on the
True,
planet.
but that would go against all of your
Plus I hate him.
Your fiber of your being stuff.
Yeah, very fiber.
Well, next is the Spock Award for the best line of the episode.
I'm gonna say the best line of the episode is when Riker says, "Hey, sir, where are we at now?" And Picard does this.
Yeah,
the best line.
That's very good. Yeah, it made me think of you guys when you play the RPG when stuff like that happens. It's like it's like it's great, but it's also a little silly, and I like it.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Gotta be a little silly.
Oh yeah, just a little bit. Well, next is the Shran Award for the best action sequence.
When Data opens the door and the volcanoes make him shake.
Nice.
Oh, God. This is much worse down here.
Oh. It's a good sequence. I like that. The door is cool. I know the set, the like outward look of like 14 volcanoes is a little much, but it's cool. Yeah. Well, next is the NX Award for some sweet ship stuff.
I like all of Data's junk around his
Yes,
chair.
that's exactly what it was. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. All of his like parts and pieces and bits and bobs. Yeah,
bits and bobs.
It was good. No, it's exactly right.
Highly damageable screens that Worf kicks over.
Yeah. Well, there goes everything.
Yeah.
All destroyed.
That's our last 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Gone, Worf. Why can't you just be like Geordi and have wrappers all over your station?
Okay. Excellent choice. Very happy with that. Next is the Porthos Award for the cheesiest thing of the episode.
It's Deanna trying to comfort Sorjenka.
Yeah.
Oh, voting. Like, she doesn't know what these words are, Deanna. She's an alien. She's not even supposed to be here.
No.
Would you like candies?
No.
Sweets and candies. She literally says, like, do you want a snack or something? And it's like, first of all, she doesn't know that word. Second of all, she doesn't know what, you don't even know what she eats.
You're right.
She looks like she eats like fire stuff. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Great scene to pick.
So
but just because it's a great scene to pick doesn't mean it was the greatest scene. So next is the Star Trek Enterprise Award for the best scene of the episode.
That's definitely the board meeting where Picard gives that speech about, like, so we should save people if it's an epidemic. We should save people if it's not just a geological incident. Yeah. That's the best scene.
Totally.
That's really good. His speech is really, really good. And I enjoy it.
Yeah. Almost like I am genuinely, like, after this episode, I am genuinely interested to see doing a look back of season 2 and like seeing what rises to the top as like the best and the worst of the season after this episode, because I felt like this episode, other than maybe the first 2 trophies, I feel like the rest of these had like really good, like really top shelf trophy awards. Like we actually had things to give them to instead of it being like, I really like this random thing, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I felt like the show,
there were actually good scenes to choose from.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is the award ceremony for the episode. That's what Caleb thought of it. And just because he gets to do it doesn't mean you don't get to do it. So you can go down to the comment section right now and you can tell us who gets the Popcorn Award for being the best actor of the episode. We look forward to reading those. And then in our other series, Hailing Frequencies Open, we're going to read that and we're going to see your choice. And then we're going to use those options and try to influence Caleb in trying to make your choice for the Popcorn Award, his choice for the Popcorn Award.
My choice.
So while you're down there typing in Popcorn Award, take another moment and let us know what you thought of the episode. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you want more of it? Or did you find this to be a pen pal that you wish didn't ever give you a correspondence? Let us know down below.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Do you wish this pal was still in the pen?
Next week's episode is episode 16, and that episode is entitled Q Who?
Ooh, I hope Q's not in it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we have that to look forward to. And so, as always, if you liked the review, like the video. If you disliked the review, dislike the video. Share it with all your friends and family and Trek enthusiasts. Subscribe so you don't miss a review, and ring that bell so you can watch the review as soon, the second it comes out. And then, when this video is over, you can always head on over to Caleb's channel. Caleb has a fun prop channel where he makes things from pop culture. He designs cool things for video games and movies and TV shows and things of that nature. He shows you how to make them so you can have it in your own home yourself. And also, we have other podcasts over there on his channel where we talk about things like Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible. So if you like those kind of things, make sure you go over there and you can listen to our thoughts on those things. Also, if you enjoy Star Trek and you would like more content you feel like it's missing, there is the original 6 Shatner Star Trek films over there, so you can always hear Caleb and I talk about that on his channel. But, Caleb, is there anything that the people should know about that's absolutely top of the top new this week?
Probably. Probably something. I don't know. Go over there and see.
Yeah. As Caleb once said, if you haven't seen it, it's new to you. So you can always go over there, find a video, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a suggestion of something you'd like to see him make or design or anything like that. Subscribe, but ultimately, you decide. We appreciate Ed Mark Starr and Captain Alimar for their Patreon support once again. We thank you all for commenting down below and doing all the fun, excellent things. We look forward to tackling comments in Hailing Frequencies Open. Don't be alarmed if Caleb and I seem like we know Star Trek episodes in advance when we're talking about things, because we have been filming like very far in advance. So
we're in a different timeline.
Yeah, yes.
The good news is I forget them as soon as I watch them.
We're very grateful for everybody helping us make this a little community, and we appreciate you guys sticking it out all the way to the end. And so, computer, wait, what's that? Why?
Someone in need of the Prime Directive being broken?
Let's get right to it.
Will? Caleb? Are you out there? I need your help. I'm afraid that you two forgot to deliver my chalupa. Please come back quick or I'll leave a negative review on Uber Prize Eats.